A not guilty plea on his behalf. I am committed to zealously fighting for him, and that he temporarily made himself unavailable. And if he ever returns, I will continue to zealously defend his rights.
Brazil does not extradite, so Dr. Frankenstein, if he's there, may never face the felonies for grand theft, practicing medicine without a license, and fraud in Miami. Karen Curtis, Miami.
The death Tuesday of country music icon Dolly Parton at 80 is being felt far and wide. Michael Kastner reports.
You come again.
In Detroit, Eminem called her an icon and a superstar in every sense and shared a note she sent to him when they both were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022. Martha Reeves called Parton an incredible songwriter, performer, and a true humanitarian, and says there will never be anyone else like her. Rock star Jack White performed Jolene Tuesday night in London for the first time in almost 20 years and said on Instagram she deserves instant sainthood. His Third Man Records thanked Parton for a lifetime of giving back and making the world a little brighter.
The FBI says a 60-day international operation has disrupted cybercrime networks accused of targeting Americans. Operation Riptide led to arrests, cryptocurrency seizures, and takedowns involving phishing platforms, romance scams, and ATM theft schemes. The FBI says Americans lost more than $20 billion to cybercrime last year. Officials warn that artificial intelligence is making online scams harder to spot. From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Hey, I'm Brant, and her name is Sherry.
Hello.
She's a friend of mine whom we were just praying for because of a surgery she just went through.
Yes, and I am very happy about something you actually talk about all the time, which is
MediShare.
That is right.
Yeah. So what was your experience like with MediShare and the healthcare bills?
Honestly, Brant, seamless. And what a blessing that is when you're already nervous about a health issue, which I was.
Yeah.
Members shared my expenses. There were zero problems. And let me tell you, having people pray with you when you call in with your need, that is just...
It is refreshing.
Yes, that's what it is.
What I keep telling people love MediShare, and they love saving tons of money, too. The typical family can save $500 a month.
I am very thankful for MediShare. It is so different, and I mean different in a very, very good way.
Good different. Call now. They're easy to talk to, and you can get a price within 2 minutes. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
President Trump says the Strait of Hormuz has been cleared of all mines.
President Trump made the announcement on Truth Social, noting that any vessel attempting to lay new mines would be immediately destroyed. Iran had committed to removing mines from the critical maritime oil passage as part of the now-lapsed Memorandum of Understanding negotiated back in June, but it was never done. Meanwhile, the U.S. has continued to help move tankers through the strait, even though traffic still remains below pre-war levels. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Representative Al Green has filed new articles of impeachment against President Trump, accusing him of high crimes and misdemeanors. The Texas Democrats' resolution cites Trump's actions involving Gaza and what Green calls violations of the Constitution. Green has repeatedly pursued Trump's impeachment, with previous efforts failing in the House. A recent YouGov survey examines how race relations have changed since 2016. More from Mark Mayfield.
Democrats are nearly twice as likely as Republicans to say race relations in the U.S. have gotten worse in the last decade. In July, 68% of Black Americans, 45% of Hispanic Americans, and 36% of white Americans considered racism a big problem in society today. Meanwhile, half of Americans believe that having a rising number of people of many different races, ethnic groups, and nationalities makes the U.S. a better place to live. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, a majority of the population will be made up of people who are Black, Asian, Hispanic, and other racial minorities by the year 2050.
I'm Ron Warner, USA Radio News.
You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle. Call 800-209-4580 for 24-hour response. Call 800-209-4580. That's 800-209-4580.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's dependable lock services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner telling. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservative. It is Wednesday night right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. It's the Common Sense Conservative. Joined by my co-host, John Grosvenor, in the studio. And I believe Colonel Chris Wyatt may be sitting today out. I'm not sure. He's still in South Africa. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing there, Todd. I guess, yeah, Chris is probably lying flat on his back, facing the ceiling, probably muttering things about the show, but he's just probably wiped himself out, bro. He's probably he really runs his butt off out there in South Africa when he gets there.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's still in South Africa. He's going to be there, I think, till next week, I believe. But yeah, he has been traveling like a son of a gun over there. A lot of meet and greets, a lot of events. It's late at night there, so I imagine he is wiped out. If we see him on here, we'll bring him in as soon as we can, folks. But tonight, just Todd McKinley in Northeast Tennessee and John Grosvenor holding down the studio in Nashua, as always. John, how's things going up there in New Hampshire?
They're going. Apparently, Chris Sununu, not Chris, former governor. No, his brother John Sununu is foregoing the debates with WMUR and also New Hampshire Journal. And I think there might have been a couple other things going on that he decided he did not want to participate in because he feels like the strongest measures are the door-to-door, one-on-one discussions, meeting people that will be his future constituents. So I guess that's his campaign strategy at this particular point in time. Todd, what do you think? You think that's an effective strategy, or do you think he should be out there on the stage?
Here's the thing. Obviously door-to-door is where you meet a lot of the voters, that's for sure. But swearing off a debate, I think, is a mistake. I think the people need to see you, hear you, and of course, hear your answers on any number of questions, because it's easy to go door to door, tell people what you're about, tell people what you're against, with lines that are tried and tested, if you will. Because think about it, you go door to door, you knock on one constituent's door, you're perfecting what you say. By the time you knock on several doors, 100 doors, you're ready to, you know what you're going to say, and you know the answers to the questions they're going to have, because basically you're going to only have questions on what you presented to them. Now, occasionally you'll have people that will answer the door and actually have a real question for you, and you'll have to maybe step and fetch it occasionally. But knocking doors is important, but at the same time, you have the same message door to door. It's the same lines, if you will. I think whenever you're put on a stage and you don't know what quite the question is going to be, it puts you in the hot seat. I think that's where the constituents need to be able to see what your answer is going to be to a non-scripted question or a non-scripted, door knock, if you will. I hope that made sense.
No, you're making perfectly good sense. The thing about the debate stage is I don't know if they give you the script or not. They probably give you the questions ahead of time, so you're a little bit better prepared for the debate, have your ideas and stuff together. However, you're being challenged on the stage, and to meet that challenge and be able to come up with those responses without notice. This is you being put on the spot, and this is where your true character is being tested. And a lot of messaging gets said, body language, micro expressions. People pick up on this stuff on the stage. So people do appreciate the debate. I appreciate the debates. I like to watch them sometimes and see how they're reacting and how they're handling it and coming back with answers and stuff. And it's important to me. And I mean, I would appreciate a lot if candidates knocked on my door and said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm John Sununu. I'm running for U.S. Senate, and I'd like to just shake your hand and introduce myself." Yeah, that's kind of nice, but it's a lot less coverage in that debate stage, and you're not really going to get you'll get to shake his hand. You'll get to know how he lets you perceive him, not how he really is. But that debate stage is going to show a lot.
Right. It will. And especially if it's, done in a, nonpartisan manner where you have maybe members of the media that are going to ask fair questions, it's a wider audience, if you will, than the one-on-one stuff. But, I understand knocking on doors. It's important, but, you think about this, you got hundreds of people in attendance at a debate or, a candidate forum, which is not quite a debate, but, you got hundreds of people in attendance. You got, maybe a radio audience or television audience or a streaming audience now that we have, internet in everybody's hands, especially with your smart device, you can watch it, on the go. You're going to reach a lot more people. And at the same time, it forces you to kind of be in the moment, answering the question kind of off the top of your head, that you may not be ready for. And I think that's important, even though they may get the topics, let's say it's national defense, whether it's homeland security, or just domestic affairs, things like that. You may understand what the topics are, but you may not know the exact question. And I think the true test is, being able to answer those questions that you're asking in the moment.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's about. It's a show of strength and capability, and people need to see it, I think. And if you're truly confident about yourself and your skills as a candidate, that you're most qualified to be the victor in this race, and it's a circumstance you should be able to handle, I think.
Right, absolutely, and running from it, to me, it's like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm trying to reach voters over here. To me, it's a good excuse, but it's a way to run from the debate. And a Sununu, they're well known in the state. Obviously, you go back to the father. I mean, for crying out loud, this guy was White House chief of staff. These were governors. They were members of Congress. The Sununu name is known. So you got name recognition right off the bat. I think we should have to hear from you. In a debate type environment. That's just my thought. If you're running for the Senate, you're running for maybe even a U.S. House seat. If you're running for like a local, like a county commission, if you will, I don't really care about a debate on something like that. Generally, I know the person, but if you're running for a wider audience, I probably don't really know the person because they may not be from my neighborhood, if you will.
Yeah, well, no, U.S. Senate, you're representing the whole state. There's two of you, and so not getting an opportunity to meet them and say, you're not going to know them that well. Like I said, when you do meet them, it's going to be by chance or something, or just a matter of minutes. So you only get a perceived knowledge of them. You don't really get to know them. Loretta, no, it's definitely not snowing here. We are in the middle of summertime. It is August, and that's dead summer here in New England. So definitely not snowing here, sweetheart.
Yeah, it looks. I see what she's saying out there. Looking at the windows, they probably got some film on them or something, and it looks like it's a little snow there, especially that window in the middle.
Now that you say it, I turned and looked outside the window when I read it, and I'm like, going, how did she get that impression? But once you said that, I'm looking at the screen now, going, oh yeah, okay, I see.
Yeah,
that.
It does look like it's a little snow out there, or dust coming down or something. It has that effect and that
center
feel,
window. Yeah.
Plus, it's the lights that we have for the people who can't see, that are listening on the radio. The Christmas lights that are around the studio and around the windows there around John. There's 3 windows behind him. It does give that feel of like it's a Christmas vibe, and it's kind of snowy out there. Kind of that feel.
I think George, if you're listening, bro, you need to clean. We need a window cleaner.
Yeah, put John to work.
Yeah, right.
Hoist you up on a bucket or something, right?
Yeah, I'll be out there like stacking chairs so I can get up there to him.
You spoke too soon, John. You got a new job.
Yeah, don't put it past him, George. Be like, Johnny, you're the one that pointed out, buddy. You're the one pointed out. You got to do it now.
Yeah, buddy, you got to do
you
it.
obligated yourself. Come on, I expect to be done by next Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, you don't go on the air on Wednesday.
Yeah, right. The door's locked. Hey, George, the
Yeah.
lock isn't working, bro. What's up? You
Oh,
didn't do the windows, Johnny.
The windows are still dirty.
I have
Oh,
expectations there. If you're in the studio, you're going to do work.
Yeah, that's funny. No, we will tell everybody that George is the owner there. He's definitely not a slave driver. He's a excellent guy, excellent
Yeah, he
man
is.
for
George,
sure.
George is good people. Man. He's people. He and
we
Bob
are his
both. Bob and
we
George
are his
have
favorite
both owned
show.
this,
Obviously, we know this.
Do what?
We have to be his favorite show, right? I mean, obviously.
Oh,
we're
of
on
course,
it,
of course.
No, a lot of great shows there on WSMN for sure. Some of them are national, some of them are local. Some of them are just like us, once a week, but everybody's putting out a message. Great station, especially the local shows that that's, to me, you get a lot of information out of that, versus some national show. Not down in national shows, but you get a lot of that local. What's going on? What's going on in my neighborhood? What's going on in the state? I think that's important as well, and that's why we try to focus on Nashua and, of course, what's going on in New Hampshire, in addition to all the other national and international stuff that we talk about here. So we try to ensure that we do focus on New Hampshire a little bit on the show for sure.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I should be bringing on some New Hampshire candidates or something. I don't know. I haven't reached out to him. Billy's been reaching out to him on Patriot Confederation. We've had him over there on Tuesday nights.
Right.
In fact, we got what's her name? Susan DeLima's coming on next Tuesday on Patriot Confederation.
Right. Your state rep candidate, is that right?
Yeah. She's married to Jerry DeLimas. You probably don't know him either, but yeah, he's good people. I don't know Susan so much, but I'm going to find out next Tuesday as far as Susan goes.
All right. Yeah. Always welcome on here for sure. And I believe it's September 9th. Is that right? Is that the September? Let me see.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my
you're
calendar
right.
here.
Yep.
Yeah. September 9th, we got Anthony Knops coming back on. He is the author of the No Fail Mission, the men and women behind the Presidential Service Badge. The first edition, and of course now a second edition is coming out, and I've been featured as Chapter 9. He did an interview with me, and I'll be up in Washington, D.C. In September 15th at the Army Navy Club for the book release there. It should be interesting, but we'll have him on September 9th talking about the book. And of course, you guys can, if you want to, go on his website, anthonyknops.com. That's ANTHONYKNOPPS.com, all one word. And there you can order both books, and especially that second book that I'm featured in, and as Chapter 9, which is, I think kind of interesting. It's one thing to kind of write a book, self-publish it, and release it on Amazon, which I feel good about. And of course, the proceeds from that book is going to a good cause, helping end suicide and focusing on those types of issues. But this is kind of one of those things where somebody asks you to let me interview you to be a chapter in the book. It's a different feeling, and it feels really good in my thoughts. And to be a part of it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool on your part. That he thought of you and wanted to include you into his writings, and absolutely.
Right, absolutely.
Todd, you make impressions, bro. You're making impressions.
Trying to do some positive stuff out here.
Absolutely.
Talking about positive things, what are your thoughts on what's going on with Iran right now? And I know I want to get an update from the Colonel. He's not here at the moment, but what are your thoughts on that? And where are we at this moment? I mean, are we any closer to victory, or have we already won? What's this? What are we looking at here?
I think as far as the news goes, it's kind of like I'm only half paying attention anymore, because as far as the news goes, we're hearing the same regurgitations. Oh yeah, we swept the Strait of Hormuz, it's free of mines. We've heard this several times now. And oh yeah, everything's flowing through. So we've heard that several times now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it's true. I think things are flowing. And I heard something about is it UAE or another one of them? They're shipping a different route. They're not even playing games with it anymore. So and then there's pipelines and stuff. I think it's UAE as well that decided they're breaking away from OPEC and decided they're going to pump out what they want to pump out. They're no longer going to be dictated to how much oil they can produce for the globe, which is kind of satisfying for me, I think, as well as everybody else, because they that'll help the markets, because obviously OPEC has always been like a cartel about it anyway. They've controlled the markets, they controlled the rates, they controlled the price per barrel, trying to jack it up and keep it up. And there's always that theory that a lot of these countries did that, and they used the money that we purchased the oil with against us with jihad from, these terrorist groups and stuff. I don't know for sure that part's exactly true, but I've heard that at times. But I'm kind of the belief that some of these countries kind of stay out of it, and that their terrorist groups do their thing. Just the same, I think Trump is winning because I think he's hammering on Iranian markets. And you know how it is. Once you hurt the people enough in a country, they're going to start turning against their own government. And that's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It hasn't happened as far as I know. We know the Kurds are fighting, and they always have. But the rest of the nation, the majority of people have not stood. Well, those that stood up, 40,000 of them are no longer alive, obviously. So I think that all in all, Trump, I'm kind of impressed that Trump is his methods and stuff he's doing. I didn't think he was going to get away with it like he's doing it. I didn't think it was going to happen so much. I know China's been trying to skirt us a little bit. And now they just come out recently about, hammering on us about they're going to protect their own interests. They're going to do what they want to do. It's like, go ahead, China, keep messing with us, because you still rely on our economy a lot, just like Canada does. So you just keep poking at the badger there, and, we'll become less dependent, I guess. And knowing Trump, he's the type of guy, that's what he's working on, right? He's already announced, we're bringing jobs back to America. This is America first, not last, not only, but first. And go ahead.
Yeah, as it should be. We should be. Every nation should be focused on their country first, the internal mechanisms, their own safety, their own economy, if you will. And of course, America should be doing the same thing, I think. And at the same time, these people that have been taking advantage of us, we should be strong against them. But at the same time, with Canada, what are your thoughts with that? With talks breaking down yesterday, and I know you probably deal with truckers that ship back and forth to Canada and vice versa. What are your thoughts on what went down yesterday?
I think Canada is, they're trying to go for as much as they can get, and they're asking for more than we're willing to give. Obviously, that's been carny, and I think they're trying to wear us down a little bit. They don't realize their dependencies upon us. They have no real leverage points. And they're trying to act like they do, they're bluffing, and Trump is not the guy to bluff with, or any one of his administrative staff are going to see through it. But Carney, you do remember Carney at Davos, right? He tried to rally the other nations against us. He wanted everybody to get behind him, and they were going to work out their economies without us. And a lot of people didn't bite. They're like, dude, you have nothing to offer us. I'm sorry, but you have nothing to offer us. We're going to stay with the United States because they actually have an economy we can grow with.
Right. Yeah. We a lot more people, a lot more money, a lot more. I don't want to necessarily say stable, but as far as, probably more stable in many ways, because the purchasing power that we have, I believe, makes us more stable in some respects.
Well, there's a thought that that's what this whole thing about the oil is in Iran. I mean, a lot of this isn't just about nuclear armaments. It's about oil, too. I mean, Iran's out there selling for dirt cheap, and it's undermining other markets. And we were losing in the petrodollars. And I think a lot of this is to reestablish our strength with the petrodollars, because we leaned on that a lot through the years. And by reestablishing that, we'll have a, greater, stronger dollar. And we need that. I was looking at a post somebody made about inflation during the Joe Biden administration, because they're trying to put a lot on Trump about inflation right now, and and it's at 2.7%, right? Coming out of the Joe Biden administration that they want to focus in on. But truth of the matter is, like 30% from the beginning of Joe Biden administration to the end of the Joe Biden administration that nobody on the left wants to look at or actually accept that. We've had a huge increase, inflationary increase during the Joe Biden administration, and it's hurt us a lot as a country, as a people. And so of course they want to deflect it back on Trump, but that's what they do. They always try to spin it around and make it look like Trump did something wrong. And he's taken all the right steps, all the right measures. If he keeps going, it's probably going to feel like 1970s all over again, as far as having that kind of patriotic buy American. Remember, you were born in the 70s. I don't know if you remember when you was a kid, but if you back in the 70s, if you worked at GM in Michigan, and you drove a Toyota or a Honda in on that lot to go to work, you might not be driving home with a roadworthy car. Them union guys were playing games. They're like, no, that's not American, bro. You don't do that here. And so we had that kind of sense of patriotism towards our country in terms of keeping our economics strong here in the United States. And we've seen that shift in the 1980s, I think, where we started outsourcing a lot and started trying to benefit from other countries. And I don't think it benefited us as a whole, as a country, as far as our labor workforce and things like that goes.
Right. I hear you. Yeah. Loretta asked me if she could ask a question about suicide. For sure. Just post it in the comments there. And as it comes up, I'll try to answer it as best I can, for sure. Just let me know. If you see it, John, for Loretta, post a question. Let me know if I miss it.
I saw a post in there about not being able to sleep, and the reason why a lot of folks in South Africa are struggling with rest is because they're scared.
Yeah,
they're scared what's going to happen while they're sleeping. I feel very fortunate. My problem is I wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's not because I'm scared at all.
Right.
I don't know what it is about waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning. Now I know why they call it the witching hour, because it's a pain in the butt when you only slept 4 hours and now you're wide awake and you can't go back to sleep.
Right. Yeah, I've made myself at night just it gets late and I'm like, you know what? Just call it. Don't try to turn on another show. Don't try to open up another email. Just close everything down. Go brush your teeth and just go to bed. And even if you wake up, try to work through that. You know what I mean? Don't give in and get up and start moving around doing stuff. Just lay there for a little bit. Try to go back to sleep. And I'm finding that I'm getting better sleep by not letting my mind start to get active again. Not grabbing for a screen to listen to something. You know what I mean? So it's helped out a lot.
I do that too. It's an hour and a half of tossing and turning. My wife's like, will you just get up already?
At times, yes, I'm right there. Yeah. I got you for sure. But folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. We're also available online at wsmn.live. That's wsmn.live. And of course, many social media and streaming platforms out there. We're not joined tonight by our co-host, Colonel Chris Wyatt, who is still in South Africa on his tour, his month-long tour there this go around. Many meet and greets. Of course, last couple of weeks he was a little bit under the weather. I think maybe got a cold or something over there. And tonight, I guess he's getting the rest he truly deserves, taking a night off from the show. If he pops on here, we'll let everybody know. But if you're watching us, that's why you're not seeing Colonel Chris Wyatt. He is not available this evening. So we wish him a speedy recovery. And of course, safe travels back home once he's done over there for sure.
And he's not shunning us. I think he really just wiped himself out.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah. I didn't see in an email or anything that he's going to beg off tonight, but it's expected at times, these things happen. That's why there's 3 of us, somebody can't make it. You hopefully you have 2 people showing up to shoulder that load. And there's been a couple times in our 5+ year history where I've not been able to make it, but John and the Colonel has always picked up the slack for sure.
So here's your question, Todd. Is it wrong? Does someone that does it go to hell, or may one be forgiven for that act? So sorry, very touchy question. We'll understand if you wish not to answer. It's
right. No,
interesting question for sure.
It is, and I it's one of those things that you think about this for the longest time. They said that's the unforgivable sin, right? But and then you have people that did a lot of research and to try to find out, is that the truly not unforgivable sin? And they're like, they can't find it really specifically. So I'm not a theologian, anything like that. If you're Catholic, the Pope, not the current Pope, but the most recent Pope said that, that he doesn't think people do go to hell. He's not sure. I mean, I don't know the right answer to that.
Nobody knows. That
I don't know the right answer to that.
It's philosophy. There's no actual answer for that one.
So I'm not going to pretend I can give you the right answer, philosophically or from a religious standpoint. But I do know that there's many ways you can go to figure out the signs and symptoms that somebody may be presenting to be able to identify them. And there's many ways you can help. And if you're in America, we have a crisis hotline you can call. It's 988, and if you're a veteran, you press 1. I know you're probably in South Africa. I don't know what resources they have there. But here in America, we do have some resources available for people who are going through that process in their mind of possibly committing suicide. And that's kind of the focus of my book, was kind of identifying those issues and focusing on those and hopefully being able to get people help, if you will. So, not going to give a good answer as far from a religious standpoint. Just don't have the right answer, I don't think.
You got an opinion?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, to say that somebody goes to hell. Here's the thing: as a human being, I don't get to decide who goes to hell. You know what I mean? People try to say, "Well, you're going to hell for that. You're going to hell for that." It's like, can you not be forgiven? You know, I get it. If you kill yourself, can you be forgiven for it? You know, I don't get to decide that. You know, who knows, right? Everybody
No,
loves to
nobody.
pretend that they know, you know, what God or any deity, you know, whatever religion you are, may think, or whatever, what punishment they're going to, you know, put us through. But you know, we're mortal people. You know, we don't know these things for the most part. It's what, I guess, it's what you believe at the end of the day.
So since she asked the question, and I'm not putting anything on her, but you know, if somebody is out there thinking about it, you know, please reconsider,
Right.
because you don't know what life has in store for you when things seem like they're really down. Um, you may think that's a viable option, but as long as you got lung in your chest, I mean, air in your chest, as long as you're breathing, you're in the fight. You know,
Right.
you are in the fight, and look for a friend, man. Look for somebody to lean on. But as far as
Right.
going to hell, me personally, I don't think that way. I don't think it's a matter of hell or heaven when people do such things. Some people are struggling and they make choices, and it's probably not the most adequate choice or the best choice, but
Right.
it is what it is. But I hope that people will overcome it. I think the majority of people thought about it at least once in their life and taken it into consideration because they felt overwhelmed. And like I say, you're always in the fight, man. As long as you're breathing, you getting oxygen in, and you're moving around, you're in the fight.
Yep, absolutely. And Loretta, we do. I see that she says her daughter and grandson already in U.S. Via refugee program. Son on his way soon. I won't be able to make it if I have to stay behind. Hopefully, you know, if you've applied, Loretta, I hope you do get through. You know, we'd love to have you here. You know, we've seen you on the show many times here, commenting. You know, hopefully you will be able to join your family here in the U.S. Under that program. Again, if the colonel was here, he could probably talk a little bit more about it in depth than we can. But if you can reach out to him, or you know, send him a message on his platforms or his social media, and get in contact with him, he'll be able to give you some good answers. Maybe hopefully steer you in the right direction if you're not in the right direction already.
You know, I kind of wonder if people are just focusing in on America, if there's not other options in other countries for refugee
Yeah,
status.
not sure.
Also, it's to my understanding when it comes to asylum,
Right.
to qualify, you have to be in a country, whatever country you arrive to claim asylum. I guess you can't do it from where you're at. You have to migrate to wherever it is you want to be or supposed to be or whatever, and then claim it. At least here in the United States, from what I read. But I'm kind of curious why people in South Africa, they're not, if they're being denied refugee status, why would they not qualify for asylum when they're living in such deplorable conditions? I mean, we're seeing it here, right here in the comments section, where people are talking, and I see it every week. You know, this is a one-time deal. I see it every week. People in here saying, "I can't sleep. I can't sleep. I'm guarding the house, trying to let the family trying to sleep. So I'll stay up all night and guard." And you know, to live in such conditions, it seems to me that that's what we're looking for when we're trying to get people. That's what they're escaping, is
Right.
that kind of persecution, you know, when we're offering asylum. So if one doesn't work, if refugee status doesn't work, then why not asylum? I mean, that's what it's for.
Right, for sure. Here's a story out of New York. Bruce Blakeman will end ICE agreement. This is according to Newsmax. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, the Republican nominee for governor of New York, said he will reluctantly comply with a state law that bars police departments from working with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Blakeman said he will join a lawsuit filed by other municipalities in the state to challenge the measure. The Trump administration is also suing over the law, Politico reported. The law was signed by Governor Kathy Hochul, horrible, earlier this year following ICE's enforcement campaign in Minneapolis that saw 2 U.S. citizens killed. Politico also reported. And of course, Blakeman says, "I am a law and order county executive," Blakeman said at a press conference. "I believe in the rule of law, even when it's a bad law," Blakeman added. And of course, we here at the Common Sense Conservative agree with that. And of course, uh, Bruce is the brother of Brad Blakeman, a former White House, I don't say colleague, but whenever I was stationed at the White House military office, he was a assistant to President George W. Bush, and of course has been around the many White Houses down through the years, going back I think to the Ford administration. But anyway, good family there, good people, and hopefully Bruce will become the next governor of New York. And you see what the rule of law is. He said he will comply with the rule of law while working to change it the proper way. That's what Republicans should be about. And I think that's what Republicans by and large are about. Whenever you talk about, think about voting for a Democrat candidate, they just ignore laws outright. They ignore the Constitution outright. Here's a Republican saying, I disagree with it. I'll work to properly change it, if you vote for me. And I think that's the right way to go about things.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as agreeing with law goes, yes. Except for when it violates the U.S. Constitution, I have an issue with that. I don't know how to make it null and void. They say according to Madison, what was it, Madison? I can't remember the case now. Anyway, the whole doctrine was if it violates the U.S. Constitution, it's now null and void. But how do you determine that? It takes a judge to determine that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of a neighboring state, Maine GOP governor nominee to ask for ICE at the polls. This again is from Newsmax here. Maine's Republican nominee for governor recently told a crowd of supporters that he would ask a top White House official to send U.S. Marshals and Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents to polling places in the state for this fall's midterm elections, according to audio obtained by the Associated Press. As long as they're not going to interfere with someone voting, that's to me, that's not a problem there. And you're not intimidating anybody. You're just there to ensure that people who shouldn't be voting aren't there voting. I don't see a problem with that as long as you don't interfere with people that are there lawfully to vote. My opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see somebody said here a problem with asylum in the U.S. More difficult. Too many woke judges. Prejudice against South African minorities.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, Loretta responded with a question we had earlier about South Africa being able to go elsewhere, or South Africans, excuse me. She says no other countries are open for South Africans at this point, I believe, sadly. But America right now is open for refugees that qualify. So again, I don't have all the answers. Again, I wish the Colonel was here to go into that again, but reach out to him like I said a minute ago, Loretta.
Yeah. No, I was just reading what they were saying, and it seemed worth mentioning that they looked into it, I guess, or maybe that's what Chris had told them. I don't know. But that's
so anyway
discouraging, I guess you might say. I think we need the Black Robe Regiment back, Todd. I think we need men at the pulpit, talking politics again. You know what I'm saying? I think we need that strong community environment once again. We'll become unified under one banner instead of this. We watched Jesus Christ being under attack for how many decades now from the left. I mean, they've attacked Christians from the left for decades on end, told us about how the Holy Crusades were horrible, but never condemning the Islamic attacks.
Right.
You realize how many people, how many U.S. soldiers, how many citizens have been attacked by Iran or its proxies since 1979? You realize it's a lot, right? We've been under attack a lot from these people.
Oh, for sure. Well, you got to think even in Iraq and Afghanistan, even though I have an opinion on how and why we went to Iraq, is besides the point. I mean, you got to think many of the weapons, a lot of the weapons we were attacked with in Iraq and Afghanistan were from Iran, by the way.
Yeah,
manufactured
and aiding them.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we lost Dolly Parton yesterday at 80 here in Tennessee. She's from Sevier County, which is just a few counties away, really. Falls within my current congressional district that I live in. So almost a neighbor here, Dolly Parton at 80. And of course, El Said, who's the Michigan Senate candidate, the Democrat Senate nominee. His tribute to Dolly Parton after her death sparks internet fury as critics cry foul. Quote, give me a break, according to Fox, as millions of Americans across the country issued heartfelt tributes following the death of country music superstar Dolly Parton. Michigan Democrat Senate nominee Abdul El Said is facing heat online over what critics call a politicization of Patton's passing. Dolly Parton used her gift for music to highlight the challenge of poverty, inequity, and struggle in ways that uplifted and inspired working people. Elsa had posted on X on Tuesday, shortly after Parton died at the age of 80 after a brief battle with cancer. And I told him all the story. Mama told me while she sewed, and how my coat of many colors was worth more than all their clothes. El Sayed added, quoting Parton's song. El Sayed post was I don't even know what this is, but anyway, people are going nuts over this guy's post about Dolly Parton. Hey, there's Colonel Chris Wyatt. Everybody, we're going to shift gears here. Colonel, you look haggard, my friend.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit wiped out. I'm sorry I had a little trouble getting on this evening, but I'm here at least for a little bit, finish up the hour. Yeah, the passing of Dolly Parton was sad. I remember earlier this year, she withdrew from her tour, and she said that afterwards people were concerned, and she did a video. She said, "No, folks, I'm okay. I just had a little health thing. I'm good. I'm back." And then here, just a few months later, she's passed away at the age of 80. Truly a global icon. Dolly Parton is something to people throughout the world, and it's here in South Africa. A lot of people are very sad that she's passed away. A lot of people. It's truly a legend. You know, a lot of people gave her grief because she drank the Kool-Aid over the COVID era, made those videos encouraging people to get their jabs and all that. And a lot of people wouldn't forgive her for that, but you have to judge a person the totality of their character. And Dolly Parton was truly amazing. She rose from abject poverty. She was successful. She didn't get stuck in the way that, that many performers did, forced to, for the casting couch. She avoided that, to our knowledge. Stayed married to her husband for decades, raised hundreds of millions of dollars, donated millions, hundreds of millions of books for kids for literacy. She wrote over 3,000 songs. She bought an amusement park there, which of course became Dollywood, and turned it into something bigger and better. And everything she did, she turned to gold. I mean, just absolutely amazing humanitarian, songwriter, singer, actress. When I was younger, I didn't really appreciate Dolly Parton until I became, an older adult. I realized what she's really capable, and this must hit really hard where you're from. She's from Sevier County, is she not? And that's got to be hitting people really hard tonight, Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely. So how is the visit to South Africa going? We were talking about a little bit earlier. Some people were commenting about the programs, etc. But how is your visit to South Africa going thus far?
Oh, it's epic. The folks here in South Africa are just amazing. It's really been something else. But as usual, I just people ask, and I never say no. And so I really go quite the distance here, and there's still quite a bit to go here in the last few weeks. It's amazing all the places I've been, all the people I met. I went to the South Africa New Zealand game on Saturday in Johannesburg, and over 400 times people stopped me to say hello and take a selfie with me. It's really amazing. People are wonderful. I was expecting a few people to see, but not that many. So I went to the game Tuesday, yesterday, where the provincial team, the Lions from Johannesburg, played the All Blacks and nearly beat them. They nearly beat them. The All Blacks were scared. This was so close. It went right down to the wire. And I didn't expect anybody to see me there because it's the local provincial team. It's Johannesburg, but about 60 times people stopped me. It's unbelievable. Everywhere I go, people are so warm and friendly and helpful. It's quite the thing. My biggest problem on this trip is all the generous gifts that people give me. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to put them. I carry so much stuff back to America. So it's a bit of a conundrum here. I'm working on it. In fact, I left an entire duffel full of gifts back in Johannesburg with some friends who will transport it by car down to Cape Town to save me the cost of shipping it through the air 3 or 4 times. And I'll sort things out when I get to Cape Town. But that's been the biggest challenge and problem. Also, the inflation that happened over the past 2 years when you mentioned Joe Biden was the president, he destroyed the global energy economy and spiked the rates of things, and everything's doubled in price. And it holds true here in South Africa as well. Things I used to get for $30 or $40 now cost $50 to $80. I used to be able to get lodging for $37 to $50 to $70 a night. Nothing usually any decent quality. I get less than 60 or 70, which sounds pretty good in the U.S. context, but in South Africa that's much more expensive, and it hits South Africans' wallets pretty hard. This is a country with over 40% unemployment, a country whose GDP growth is 0.5% annually. human population growth of nearly 1%, inflation of 3 or 4%, it basically means the economy is contracting. And so a lot of people are having a tough time. The rugby greatest rivalry, which is the anchor event for my tour, I've gone to 4 of the games so far. I will get the game in Baltimore. It makes 5 of the 8 games. And that's pretty cool. But a lot of South Africans struggle to afford the ticket prices for games like that. It's, for instance, I went to a provincial game, Currie Cup game in Wellington in the West Coast, and I paid $4.50 per seat at the 50-yard line. And parking was 60 cents. So that's something that's affordable. But by contrast, the tickets that I have, which is a decent ticket for the All Blacks, I think I paid, let's say, I must have been $65, which to you and I, John, that's pretty cheap. Like, you're not going to go to a New England Patriots game for $65.
No, it's not happening.
Yeah,
I think it cost $55 to park there last time I was there.
Exactly. So, I mean, I went to the Redskins game a few years back. I didn't pay for tickets, but I paid, I think, it's $55 to park and walk 2 miles to the stadium. It was insane. It's like $150 to park in the stadium. So, I mean, it's in our context, it's very inexpensive compared to what we pay for professional sports in America. But for a lot of South Africans who are struggling, it's a bridge too far. It's a cost they cannot afford. And that's unfortunate. This is a country with the most amazing potential, human capital, natural resources, ports. The capability of this country could be a powerhouse for the entire continent of Africa. Instead, it's a laggard, and it's being lapped now by the likes of Ethiopia and by Nigeria and by other countries. Even Ghana is creeping up on our heels now. So it's sad to see a country with such great potential that's just been literally looted and destroyed by corrupt politicians, inept politicians, and racist policies and laws. And that's kind of where we're at today. But it doesn't change the fact that South Africans, black, white, and brown, are amazing people. They're really fascinating. And if you ever get a chance to come to South Africa, you'll experience that firsthand.
Absolutely. And real quick, I want to shift gears and ask you about Iran. Any assessment on that? What have you been keeping up with?
Well, I stick by my previous assessment that I would handle this campaign completely differently. It's become a bit of an embarrassment for the United States that we can't just end this thing. I don't understand what the president's up to. I'm not in the Situation Room, so I'm not hearing what his plan is, if there is a plan there. Of course, we've always said we would hold whatever administration, whatever officials in office to account. And we've never backed away from that, and this is where I stand. I would have run this campaign completely differently. I would have captured Carg Island before the first round was fired, take a Delta and SEAL team or more into there, land them, capture the island, bring in a MEU, land them, or fly in a Ranger bat, secure the island, put a sub to patrol it under the water so no one could threaten it, put taxpayer defense on the island, and just go from there. And from that moment on, start bombing the snot out of it. Instead, we left Carg Island unmolested. The oil tankers transit freely in and out of the strait because the Iranians don't stop them. And they made billions and billions and billions, that kind of Dr. Evil billions of dollars, which has kept them in business and prolonged this war by at least 4 months, if not longer. This was, I think, foolhardy. I've heard some analysts, including a former IDF spokesman, claim that capturing Carg Island would result in American casualties. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be callous, but is this you sank my battleship, or are we at war? What are we playing here? I mean, I'm not trying to be callous with life, but the point is that you're at war. They declare war on us in 1979. 10,000 Americans have been killed or so over the years by these people and their proxies. And the fact that we didn't engage in war doesn't mean we're not at war. And we need to treat it such. This, trusting them during ceasefire negotiations is foolhardy. You cannot trust these schools. They have no intention whatsoever. They're simply trying to wait things out. They think that after the midterms, things will change. It reminds me of South Africa. Last year, when Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, went to the White House, very famous day in May of last year, and the U.S. government had already passed a list of asks, things that we want the U.S. South African government to address in order to restore and improve our relations. They've done none of that. They're not serious. They're waiting for the midterms. They're waiting Trump out. And they think that things go back the way they were before Trump. But they don't understand that South Africa is angry. The United States is angry at South Africa, not Trump, the United States. Congressional members on both sides of the aisle have criticized the South African government and have raised questions about whether we should have a relationship with them at all. But instead, they want to sit here and wait until, well, it's Trump. And when Trump's gone, we'll go back to normal. You're not going to go back to normal. If you don't do something soon, a lot of trouble is coming down the pipeline, because Scott Bessent has said that we will apply punishments to countries that trade with Iran, secondary sanctions. In addition, I strongly think that there will be sanctions coming on some members of the government here in the next few months because their refusal to address the things that the U.S. government asked them to do. Rather simple action in some cases, like kill the war. Disavow, once again, treated it for what it is. It's a violent, racially hateful song that doesn't glorify the revolution overturning apartheid. It glorifies killing people, and oftentimes when farmers or their families are tortured and murdered on farms, their blood is used and scrawled on the wall saying kill the Boer, which means kill the farmer. So, I think some golden opportunities are missed here by the government in allowing this war to continue, and it's dragging on, and it's affecting some candidates. It affects Trump, but he's not running for office, so all it really affects him is the polls. But the left can use this against the administration, against some candidates. But again, back to the whole thing. I know this is a little bit long, but give me a second here. Please be patient since I got in late. The Democrats thought they had this thing sewed up. They really did. Despite the gerrymandering, which people forget, the Republicans are at like a +9 on the House of Representatives alone from gerrymandering, even though I think that's immoral and unconscionable. That was the reality. So the Democrats thought there was a big chance to get the House back. I disagree. But things were trending in the direction until recently. When Francesca Hung lost the Democratic primary in Wisconsin, the Democrats, in many respects, have gone into a panic mode, a mini panic mode, because they thought that attaching their star to the demon rat socialist of America would ensure that they win this election. They're not so sure now. They're scrambling. They've withdrawn their efforts, their money from senatorial races across the Deep South, all of which they've given up on, thinking they could win a few seats in the South and take the Senate. Now their money's being spent elsewhere. And the same thing is happening in many of the congressional races. They're waking up to the reality that they're as popular as syphilis, and they're not going to win the day. So they're wasting their money. Yeah, anyway, I think that's a long answer, but I think that addresses what you said and a few more things.
No, absolutely. Yeah, John, what you got a follow-up question for the Colonel before he pops off a little bit?
Well, you were talking about the war with Iran, and I was talking earlier. I think that Trump's strategy mainly is to choke out their economy. Do you see it that way? And do you think that that may be effective?
Well, I think that Trump has announced that strategy 6 months into the conflict, and that if it is a strategy, it should have been the priority from day one. And the best way to handle it is what I said. You can give them sanctions, you can cut them as with banking system, but when they're getting boatloads of dollars dropped in their pocket by delivering oil to countries throughout Asia, throughout a war in which they're not even stopped. Remember in 1987, the Iranians and the Iraqis were attacking oil shipping in the Gulf and driving up price of energy for Europeans and Japanese, for the U.S. too, but to a less extent. Most of our oil wasn't coming from them, but some was. And President Reagan reflagged all the tankers. Remember that? Instead of flags convenience, they were flying U.S. flags. And our Navy interdicted, and that ended almost instantaneously. We have the will, we have the capacity, and I agree with Trump talking about strangle them off economically. Things are getting very desperate economically inside Iran, but they should have been desperate 5 months ago. There's so much money, national treasure wasted, so much time wasted here because of what I consider, and I considered from day one, this isn't Monday morning quarterbacking. I said that this is an inappropriate way to do this. I would have gone after Carl Island, so they don't have any money. If they'd done that 6 months ago, before the first bombs fell on the nuclear sides, the air defense, the communications, or the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, this thing would be over, in my view. I could be wrong about that, but certainly if it wasn't over, Iran would be much weaker today than they are, and they would be begging to get off on this. But as it is, they didn't do that. So we're kind of stuck here 6 months later, and very disappointing. I said July 4th as a deadline for Trump needing to win this thing or get out of there before it starts causing damage to the elections. And we're past July 4th. We're past August 4th. September 4th and Labor Day are just around the corner, and we're still in Iran. So I agree, cut them off economically, but should have did it 6 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why I think a lot of it too is we're still somewhat dependent on China and getting China's been aiding Iran a lot. And in fact, they just made an announcement how they're going to look out for their own greater interest. They're not concerned about the United States. So until we get off the dependencies with China, we're going to have a hard time sanctioning them.
Well, that's going to be a very hard thing to do because our industrialists have sold us down the river in the Western Europe, in Japan, in South Africa, in the United States, by shipping much of our manufacturing to a country that employs slave labor It has pervasive human rights abuses. That is a communist country, all for a fraction of a percentage on the bottom line. These bastards have sold the world down the river so that we depend on the slave labor of China to produce our goods and services. They're morally bankrupt. Everyone that sent production to China. Shame on them. And that's the situation. You're correct. We are dependent, but they're even more dependent on us. If they want to play a hard war of economics, we'll see who starves first. It won't be the United States. It'll be Chinese. They can't even feed themselves. They can't feed their 1.5 billion people. They rely extensively on agricultural imports. Without that, they will literally starve them. So if they want to play, monkey business, hit them where it hurts.
They're like Iran. They don't value people. But real quick, Chris, if you can, we've had a lot of comments coming from South Africa tonight, and some people feel like they're not going to qualify for, and we've heard of some people that did not qualify for the refugee program. Are there other avenues for people to choose that, whether it's asylum here in the United States, or are there other countries they can seek for refugee or asylum where they're living in such deplorable conditions in South Africa and feel a need to escape?
Yeah, it's truly sad and heartbreaking what's happening for people getting ineligibility letters, which means they're not eligible for the refugee program for a variety of reasons. It could be they have safe haven passports, so they expected to go there, or maybe they're not in the country when they apply. You have to be in the country, or there's other things like fraud and other potential risk that the U.S. government's unwilling to take with people. And a lot of people have been getting those letters. I've met over probably 100 of them on the ground here. I doubt anyone's spoken to that many people in person. In fact, I know no one has. It's very sad to see this. But unfortunately, for most of these people, there is no other option, and there is no appeal. That's so the people out there spreading false hope, telling them lies about they can do a Freedom of Information Act request, and then that'll get them back in the program. That might get you your answer. I've read a few of those that people got. Oftentimes you won't get an answer, but sometimes you will. But okay, so now you know why you're ineligible. What are you going to do now? There's no appeal. There's no legal right. They're not U.S. citizens. They're not entitled to the rights that the two of us or the three of us share. The protections on the Constitution. That only applies once they fly over, land in the States, go to an immigration officer who stamps their passport and lets them in the country. Now they have rights. Now, if someone wants to take away their status, they get a court date, and the judge will hear their argument, and they can't just be kicked out of the country. But until that point, it just doesn't happen. As far as elsewhere, there are very few countries that have an interest in helping South Africans, whether they're black, white, or brown. But if people have money, there are options like Malta, which is a good option in the Mediterranean. Another is Mauritius, closer to home down here in Southern Africa. Then, of course, there are some Caribbean islands like St. Kitts and Nevis and Trinidad and Tobago that are actually sell residency and even citizenship in some cases. But again, you have to have resources there. Some are not that much, a few tens of $1,000s, but many of them, we're talking a couple $100,000 investment or $500,000, something like that. So there are options as far as, we would say plan B, but many people that's simply not realistic. So it's unfortunate, but some people will find themselves in the situation. And this is why I told people from the outset on this program, you're owed nothing. You don't have anything. You're not a refugee until you're here. Please be smart, declutter your house. Don't quit your job. Don't take your kids out of school. Don't sell all your things. Continue your life as if nothing ever happened. And if, in fact, they call and give you a date and give you tickets, then you can get rid of stuff. But what if I have no time? Well, are you being persecuted or are you destination shopping? I appreciate that you have assets, but is your life and the future of your children, the safety and your progress and your ability to succeed in society, is it in such grave condition that your life is threatened? And if so, then with me about it.
All right, folks, we'll be back after the break here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. I think the Colonel may be dropping off, but if he's here, we can continue with what he was talking about. Until then, stick around, folks. We'll be right back after these messages.
Broadcasting from 200 Main Street in the beautiful and historic Masonic Building. This is WSMN 1590 AM and WSMN 95.3 FM, Nashua. Streaming live at wsmn.live.
USA Radio News, I'm Anthony Lucero. President Trump says Iran's in a very bad spot, claiming the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is working. Iran and Oman are planning a temporary corridor for commercial vessels through the waterway, while Trump says Iran's new Ayatollah survived U.S. strikes but was seriously wounded. President Trump is escalating his trade dispute with Canada, saying the U.S. can get by without Canadian goods. He appeared on the Glenn Beck Show.
They don't have anything that we have to have, okay? We can get by. I mean, there are a couple of things that would make it a little inconvenient, but we can get them elsewhere. It's time to teach Canada you can't do this anymore.
The comments come as trade talks between the two nations remain strained. The Texas Senate race is drawing renewed attention to Democratic candidate James Tallarico's vote against legislation restricting certain Chinese-affiliated entities from buying property in Texas.
The greatest threat to the United States is the People's Republic of China.
A recent campaign ad makes the issue a focus, while Republican Ken Paxton supports restrictions on foreign land purchases. Meta has agreed to a nearly $17 billion settlement in a landmark case alleging Facebook and Instagram were designed to addict teenagers. More than 24 states sued that company. Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul.
The power that is being given to parents, the time limits and disabling and nighttime restrictions, all of these, I think, will be helpful to sort of turning the ship.
Meta will also face restrictions on teen usage and stronger age verification measures while denying the allegations. Wall Street closed lower.
At the closing bell, the Dow Jones lost 113 points, the S&P fell by a single point, and the Nasdaq dropped 21. I'm Lizzie Radabali.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Commerce moves fast. Your business should too. If you're not on the first page of search results, you're losing customers. Out of sight, out of mind is true. Don't let that be you. iLocal.net has helped local businesses dominate search results since 2009. For a limited time, iLocal.net is offering a free website analysis to improve the online presence of your business. Local business owners across the U.S. turn to iLocal.net to improve their search engine rankings. Search engines are constantly changing their algorithms. You need the professionals who know how to use those changes to benefit your business. Don't hope for new customers. Get found and be chosen. Call 888-699-2407 for your free website analysis. Don't wait. Call 888-699-2407. That's 888-699-2407. For your free website analysis, call 888-699-2407.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
Hi, Nashua. I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to and all that you deserve. Nashua, don't get fooled again this year. Call Perry Cataldo at 603-461-5550. That's 603-461-5550. Or visit me online at cbsnh.com. That's cbsnh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work, or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. And Colonel Chris Wyatt, for those who are listening, is still with us. Colonel, I think you were in the middle of a thought there whenever the commercial played us off there. If you want to get back into that, or if you have any other thoughts you want to jump into.
Yeah, sorry about that. During the commercial break, I lost connection 4 or 5 times. Reconnecting. That's one of the reasons why I had trouble getting on early. But so I probably don't have a lot of time here. The internet can be a bit unstable at times here in South Africa, especially in a remote place. I was just wrapping up about how, if I recall correctly, about the approach we've taken to Iran. I agree with the president that we're strangling them economically, but if we're not strangling them fast enough and hard enough. This has proved to be a distraction that's unnecessary. It's costing us a lot of national treasure. I hope that the president gets it sorted out soon, so it's over. But I think the only answer here, quite frankly, which nobody's saying openly, is regime change. That's the answer here. That's the only way this thing ends.
We said that at the beginning on this show. We were talking about, come on, let's get that regime out of it. We don't want it.
Yep, we did, and we are right pretty often on this program. So maybe someone should listen. But it's time for this thing to be brought to a swift end. You see that the president during the break they were listening to him talk about the tariffs with Canada. We're playing hardball with Canada. That's another one. Our friends up north, if they want to play chicken, let's see who falls off the rails first. We don't need Canada to survive. It certainly has a big impact on our lives, but without us, it's catastrophic to their economy. And 2/3 of their trade or something like that's with the U.S. And they can talk about alternatives, but it take a long time before China becomes a reliable partner in the way the United States is. Plus, our systems are so integrated, whether it's driving, whether it's rails. I mean, the Chinese can be a great friend for the Canadians if they want them to be. That's their perspective. But there are no railroads that run from China to Canada, but there are lots from the U.S. There are no highways that link China and Canada, but there are to the U.S. There are no familial ties except for a lot of people out in, of course, Vancouver and a few other places where they birthed tourism, gave them citizenship in Canada from Hong Kong or from mainland China. But basically, the cultural, the linguistic, the historical, the infrastructure ties are all U.S. Canada. And if they want to play chicken, they're going to hurt Canadians. And that's what the politicians are up there doing. They want to play games. Ford has run his mouth again about how he's going to cut electricity exports to the United States off. Well, they can cut off $3.3 billion electricity exports to the United States, but at the same time, we can turn off $1.5 billion of electricity exports to Canada. Now, who suffers the most there? Americans may take a hit. It may be a problem, but the Canadians cannot survive without trade to the United States. And this is a very dangerous game that Mark Carney is playing with Donald Trump. And it's a shame because we were once very close friends. But the Canadians lost their way years ago. They lost their way. There was a very good book written over 2 decades ago by a political scientist in Canada. On my trip up there where I worked for the National Security Agency, I purchased the book in the bookstore. It's called While Canada Slept, because that's exactly, while Canada slept, its leftist politicians led it down a path, on the primrose path to oblivion, and a situation in which Canada, a country that for over a century punched above its weight on the world stage, has become a sick joke in international relations. It's all about LGBTQ, priorities first. It's all about letting the country be invaded by people who are not Canadian, just like it's happened here. And when Sophie Cunningham went there recently after being asked a question about men in women's sports, and she said, no, men shouldn't be in women's sports. The woke tards in Canada, in Toronto, booed her at the WNBA game every time she touched the ball. And Sophie Cunningham, like she always does, took care of that. She scored 13 points, 3 critical 3-pointers, and they defeated the Canadian side. up there in Toronto, and so they were all happy that they were asses towards her, and they booed her on the court, but she got the last laugh. And this is what's happened to Canada. Canada, it's become what San Francisco is, a joke, except it's a joke to a continent, whereas San Francisco is a joke to California. And it's sad to see. Canada once punched above its weight in every aspect, geopolitically, and now it's a laggard in so many ways. And if they want to play hardball, we'll see who goes hungry first, Todd.
Yeah, no, that is a good assessment right there for sure. We talked about Iran, talked about Canada. Real quick, I always ask, maybe every other few shows, about Ukraine. What are you seeing there? And what are your thoughts in that conflict? I know it's ongoing. Who knows what tomorrow may bring, right?
Well, again, remember, I was at CPAC when that thing unfolded. I arrived the night when the war started. I tried to get in my hotel room, but it's like being in Africa again. They couldn't get the electronic machine to work to fix the room key cards. And then they couldn't find the guy who was the maintenance guy. He was sleeping somewhere. So for 45 minutes, I waited to get in my room. And then I finally get in my room because he lets me in. They bring me a key card in the morning. But I got there and I turned my laptop on, turned the TV on. I was going to get a shower because it's Florida. I was already all sweaty and nasty,
Yeah,
and
that's how it goes.
And already we see that the invasion has happened. So I went online that night and I said unequivocally, people said, so how long will this last? I said 3 to 5 years. And they were all aghast. What do you mean 3 to 5 years? I said 3 to 5 years minimum. If you understand what's at stake here and what's going on, you will realize that this will not end anytime soon, and that the Russians will have difficulty achieving their goals, and that the Ukrainians won't give up. And that's exactly what happened. Now, I didn't envision the West becoming arms merchants and prolonging this war by giving all their old military equipment to Ukraine to kill Russians, and therefore this war lasted for much longer than it should have. But the bottom line here is that this thing is not going away. Neither side is going to give up, and neither one is going to listen to what Washington tells them. There's not enough pain that can be inflicted on Russia, and not enough common sense that can be inflicted upon Ukraine's corrupt, immoral, thieving leadership that refuses to hold an election because they're just making too much money and they feel too important, pretending to be battlefield captains. Vladimir Zelensky is one of the biggest jokes on the planet. He is a piano player. He used to use his penis to play a piano on stage as a comedian. People forget that. That's who he really is. He dresses up with wearing a sweater, pretending he's a soldier. He's not. He's a comedian who plays the piano with his penis. And that's what people need to remember. So my point here is I'm not pro-Russia. I'm not pro-Ukraine. I'm pro-peace. And peace isn't coming because we have two complete fools that are running these countries.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And, no end in sight at this point. I read an article yesterday, kind of the highlights of it about, can the Ukraine afford to hold elections right now? And I'm like, you can't afford not to hold elections right now. You got to get the moron out of there.
Well, we held elections in 1944, and we foolishly reelected the socialist in chief, Franklin, the racist Delano Roosevelt, the scumbag who put America on this path to handouts and democratic stupidity. So we had an election, and he was reelected. If we can hold elections, why can't they? Of course, the argument might be, well, no one was on our homeland. Well, yeah, I suppose, but 16 million men and women were abroad, not abroad, but 12 million of them were abroad fighting a war at sea, in the Pacific, or in island hopping, or in Europe. So if we can hold an election in the midst of that, when a huge chunk of our electorate is busy engaged in combat, Ukraine can hold elections. They've had a long time to do this, and they refuse because, it works to their advantage. And shame on them. Shame on them. And by the way, for all the Ukrainians that are hiding in Germany, quit being wusses and go back and fight for your country. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
I said it.
You got to think how many people from the West, especially the U.S. early on, that went over there to fight and were killed, because they thought they were fighting for a real cause. And turns out, you're fighting for, somebody to remain in power who shouldn't be in power.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. But I mean, look, Ukraine's cause is noble. They've been assaulted. They've been attacked. Horrible things have been done to them. They have a right to exist. They're a sovereign state, contrary to what Russia believes. And so, there is some nobility to the Ukrainian cause. But the people who drank the Kool-Aid, remember, just like the people who screamed at you if you weren't wearing a mask when you were out during COVID, these are the same people that if you didn't have a Ukrainian flag flying in front of your house, showing fealty to a corrupt state, you were somehow not moral and just. The people who refused to fly Ukrainian flags were the moral and just people who see through the smoke and mirrors as to what's actually happening in Ukraine. But where are they at now? Remember this happened 5 years ago? all this stuff about Ukraine, it's not around anymore. You don't see people doing it because it was a fad, just like gays for Gaza, a dumb fad.
Yeah. You brought up the summer of love, if you will, the Fauci fever and all that. What do you think is going to happen with Fauci? His right hand man just recently, I guess, pled guilty for destruction of evidence, if you will, government property, records, etc. What do you think will happen with Fauci? You think he's going to go down a road where we can actually prosecute him, or will his so-called auto-pinned reprieve? What do you think that's going to hold up?
I think that in the case of Dr. Fauci, he's 85 years old. He's never going to prison for the crimes he's committed against humanity and the theft of money that doesn't belong to him. The patents and all the things are not his. They belong to the intellectual property of the U.S. government. The fact that he's making $500,000 in retirement is nauseating. I don't think anything's going to happen to Fauci. He'll drag it out forever. He's got the resources alone from retirement. He's making over $500,000 for the attorneys.
I think Chris froze up on us.
Yeah, it froze up there again. Hate that. Yeah, I was wanting to get this last assessment. I think he's probably gonna maybe drop off here. Yeah, there he's dropped off.
No, I took him out. I'm waiting for him.
Okay.
There he is. I was gonna wait for him to.
There we go. Sorry, Colonel, you froze up there. Giving us the assessment on Fauci.
Wait, what happened?
There we go. You got me?
Yep,
yeah,
we got you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize he was frozen because I was still flying myself. Again, I'll drop off in a moment because this connection is dodgy, to say at the moment. Anyway, so I was saying with Fauci. Fauci will never go to prison. He has the financial resources to avoid it, and he's protected under the Constitution. He used his Fifth Amendment right to prevent himself from incriminating himself over 100 times in testimony because he knows he's guilty. Look, I mean, invoking the Fifth Amendment is not necessarily a sign of guilty, but this guy is guilty. And the number of times he did it, he absolutely refused to answer the most basic questions when just 6 years ago, he deigned to tell us that we were criminals if we didn't wear masks and so on. He should be tried for crimes against humanity. Millions of people are dead because the likes of Fauci and Dr. Blix and all those clowns. These people died needlessly. And then, of course, the criminals, Murphy in New Jersey, Governor Gropalot, Cuomo in New York, and, of course, our scumbag, former governor in Pennsylvania, sent tens of thousands of people with COVID into our nursing homes and killed off our parents, our grandparents. These were crimes against humanity, and they have qualified immunity. Fauci doesn't have that same qualified immunity. That's why he invoked the Fifth Amendment, because he can be prosecuted. I think that he belongs in prison for the rest of his natural life, and all the proceeds from his ill-gotten gains should be donated to people living in poverty in this country. So that's my take on Dr. Fraud, and he's not going to get his just desserts. He will escape justice just like Joe Biden has done for all these years.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, now Hunter is a lot of people on the right wing are now all of a sudden ingratiating themselves with Hunter Biden at this point, which, we've seen several people, former Fox News analysts, if you will, that are having Hunter on their podcast. What are your thoughts about trying to give Hunter Biden a second lease on life, if you will?
Hunter Biden is a felon who should have done his time in prison. He's a scumbag who sold our nation down the river. He should not be trusted for a moment. Any so-called conservative that deigns to entertain that buffoon, that treasonous SOB who is a disgrace to this country, is not a true conservative. They're clickbaiters. They are chasing viewers. They are just frauds. Ask yourself this question, guys. The likes of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Yeah, and Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and these others that are so-called conservatives, are they conservatives? I mean, are they truly conservative? Or just the better-dressed chimpanzee that's sitting behind a microphone or in front of a camera who doesn't really know what the hell they're talking about? They're just given notes and they read it like the better-dressed chimpanzee, and suddenly they're smart. If you actually listen to a conversation in which Tucker engages someone on a question that wasn't in his prep notes, it's not impressive. It's not impressive. People were dismayed at Tucker Carlson. I said, why? Tucker Carlson is who Tucker Carlson has always been. He is a chameleon and will say and do what he needs to do in order to get attention, fame, and money. Now, I'm not attacking Tucker Carlson. He's an entertaining guy. I found him very good when he replaced Bill O'Reilly in that slot at Fox News when I still watch Fox News. And I also said at one point he was the only journalist in the world that was telling us the truth about things. And it was true. But his little dispute with Fox, he walked away and went to X, and he gives Vladimir Putin an hour plus to tell us a fairy tale history of Russia. Look, the guy is exactly what I thought he was. Candace Owens lost her mind. That woman's absolutely backcrack crazy. She's so her hatred of Jews is so sick and twisted that it perverts everything she says. So look, I'm not impressed by these people who are so supposedly conservative who suddenly think that it's like John Fetterman. Oh, he's one of us. No, he's not. He's not a Republican. He's not a conservative. He just has a little bit of common sense, apparently, because whatever medical condition he had, must have reset his, his brain to where he's actually, it's like he's got to charge electricity and suddenly has common sense. But Fetterman is not a conservative. He's not one of us. Don't fall for that. Just because sometimes people agree with your same position doesn't mean they're of the same ilk as you and they have the same ideology. He doesn't have the same ideology. Plus, I think he's a bit of a bigot against black people, but that's just a personal view based on what he's done in the past. So I would say that people cozying up to Hunter Biden are just looking for attention, clicks, and money or ad revenue for whatever reason. And it's sad to see people sell their souls out. They sell out their character. They sell their values out just for attention or money. And that's what I see that we're seeing with these so-called journalists. Ben Shapiro comes under a lot of criticism. Ben is not objective when it comes to Israel or Judaism because he's a Jew and because it's obvious when he speaks that he's not objective on the topic. But Ben Shapiro is Ben Shapiro. He's been consistent for years since he was a 16-year-old and had his first book published. And whether you like Ben Shapiro or not, I don't think he sells himself down the river. But these other folks, they certainly do.
Yeah, interesting thoughts there. I guess you're probably going to jump off here in just a few seconds. Anything any of your viewers, listeners should know about maybe your next few days, what you're going to be, where you're going to be at, what times, etc. Maybe where they can meet you at.
Well, I've shared that on two broadcasts earlier this evening, so I think most people are aware of it. I will be headed to Peter Maritzburg tomorrow for a lunchtime meet and greet at a Mug and Bean restaurant. It's a coffee shop, a little sandwich shop in Peter Maritzburg. And then later in the day at 4 p.m., I'll be at the Suncoast Casino Mug and Bean in Durban, have a meet and greet. And then on Friday at noon, once again, I'll have a meet and greet in a town called Toledo up the coast a little bit. Then that night, I fly back to Johannesburg and head up to the northern part of the country on another flight the following day. And it just kind of goes like that the rest of the way. So, yeah, thanks for your tolerance and your patience, guys. I appreciate it. As you guys can hear, maybe my connection keeps dropping off. So I'm going to drop off here a little bit shy of an hour, but at least I did get out here tonight. And thanks. And I look forward to next week and hope to have a little bit better connection. And you guys enjoy the rest of the program. And to the viewers and the listeners out there, because we are on radio, the listeners out there, thank you so much for your patience for my tardiness tonight. And I hope that you found my comments to be useful and perhaps even insightful. And if you don't, oh, well, then you're getting paid the same. You're just listening. Thanks, guys.
There you go.
It's all free.
Right. Yeah. Appreciate it, Colonel. Thanks for being here and appreciate the insight. For the people who want the Colonel fix, hey, we got about an hour out of him. And I got the questions I wanted to ask really in the first hour. And I'm glad he was able to stick with us here for the first half of the second hour.
Oh, absolutely. He's good that way. I thought maybe, like you did earlier, that maybe he just fell asleep. He was running himself so ragged. And it turns out he just couldn't get on. It's like, okay. But then he stays over the hour anyway, just to make good, good conversation with us. And that was good of him, because he does get up early. Oh, Todd muted himself. Huh?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was talking. I actually got my cousin here. He's kind of watching me. I asked him to step away to get me a lemonade. Sorry.
Oh, you gonna have some of that Southern lemonade? None of that sweet tea. No sweet tea.
No sweet tea. So there we go. A little lemonade here.
Lemonade in his White House tumbler.
Yeah, well, actually, it's for the viewers there. It's White House Communications Agency. I just took a little White House sticker on the front of it. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So cool. Yeah, it is a White House tumbler, I guess technically, but yeah, I picked it up
now.
At the agency I served at whenever I was at the White House military office. I picked it up there some years ago, so I'll just use it as my little lemonade cup. Keep it in the fridge, and it's a nice little metal tumbler. Yeah, keeps it cool.
They make some really nice tumblers now. I remember the old ones, the ice melted so quick, and now the new ones, they're so insulated, and you put ice in there and it's in there all day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They can get expensive too. Everybody gets in these fads of, this brand, that brand, or whatever, or they make a special version. And everybody has to run out and buy it. They'll buy 5 or 6 of them, which I think is a little weird. And they mark the prices up when they resell them.
They do. They make their money for sure.
Oh yeah.
So
sorry
where are
about
we
that.
at now? They
So yeah. So
Seems like
what are we thinking about, John? I mean, the midterms. I know it's coming up fast. I mean, we're what 70 some days away from the November midterms. Does the Republicans keep the House and the Senate, or we're gonna suffer under socialism or communism, whatever the case may be, democratic socialism? Where do we go from here?
it's a tough one, man. Midterm elections are tough to call. Any election's tough to call, really. The left is kind of crippled. I mean, I think Trump's really worked in 2024 during that election period as a campaign. They worked really hard to prevent fraudulent elections. Let's just go with that, I guess. And so they did a good job there. And now they're trying to work to prevent fraudulent elections from happening again with mail-in ballots and things like that.
Right.
And there's been a lot of obstruction from liberal left judges. And I think now a higher court had ruled that with the USPS executive order Trump put out, I think they agreed with him on that one about the mail-in ballots and stuff. So I'm not sure that when I was reading the article, I'm like going, wait a minute, did they agree or didn't they agree? It was one of those articles where like, I'm not sure you're making sense.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and reread that one. I don't have a problem with if you're using your absentee ballot program that's out there, that's not a problem. But this idea of just mail-in ballots, if you register to vote, you get a ballot mailed to your house. I don't like that. There's no.
You had
control
to
there.
have a reason. You didn't
Right.
just get a mail-in ballot and mail in a ballot because it was convenient. You had to have
Right.
a reason for a mail-in ballot. I can almost say that right. A mail-in ballot. So anyway, you had to have a reason to do it. It had to be you're out of town for business, like military or
Right.
some reason that you weren't going to be there at the polls to vote in person. Otherwise, you were expected to be there at the polls and vote in person like everybody else. They wanted to see your delightful face.
Yeah, absolutely. And I voted absentee a number of times, but I've always requested it properly. Whenever I served in the military, especially the last several years that I was in there. Early on, I tried to go vote when Clinton was in office. Went to the voter assistance office or officer in our unit, and like the office that they had normally would staff was an operation because they didn't fund it. So they're like, well, good luck with that. Basically, told me good luck. So a number of years in my early career, I didn't vote. Wasn't able to vote because Clinton era, they didn't fund a lot of that stuff. So it was kind of hard to get a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot.
Wow.
It's pre-internet days, being able to get something sent to you from your local election office back home, which was an issue. And of course, good luck trying to get them on the phone, right? Back in the old days, especially if you're overseas.
That's
So
terrible to hear. Military
Yeah.
personnel not being able to vote because the administration didn't take care of those needs. Because above all, you think if you're serving in the United States military, you should have a ballot.
Right.
You should be voting. I mean, your life depends on who you're voting for, right?
Oh, for sure. But the voter assistance officers, they did their best to try to get people, a ballot or whatever. But in a lot of cases, it was they didn't fund a lot of these offices, so they didn't have the personnel or the ability to really go out and get those for the service members that wanted to vote. It was a lot of people got kind of or pushed to the side and didn't get a ballot.
Yeah, no, and now the problem is I one time had to get an absentee. I knew I wasn't going to be there,
Right.
but voting was important, so I went ahead and went through like you. I went through the process, and I had to go to town hall and get it in person. You didn't just get in that; they didn't just mail it to your house. I mean, that's what the left wants to do. Basically, you're a voter. We're mailing it to your house whether you want it or not. It's
Right.
ridiculousness. It's carelessness. I mean, voting is a responsibility, and we have people in government positions that aren't being responsible in their
Right.
duties when it comes to voting. They're just putting them out there where anybody can utilize them.
Oh, for sure. And think about it. How many people that have, and we see this on a regular basis. We hear these stories out in LA where somebody's, has 15, 16 people registered, 20 people registered at one address. And it's not like in an entire apartment building, it's one apartment. And it's like, You're telling me that there's no fraud going on here? No, no one need to investigate that. There's no fraud here whatsoever. It's like this place has 16 people registered to vote. The next department has 20. The next one has 20, whatever. It's like we get to the point where you have 1,000 people living in a apartment built complex that should have
Four-unit
only
complex. Yeah.
it should only have like 100 people living at it, and it's like,
Yeah.
really, all these people are registered to vote there with names that are very suspect anyway. We can't investigate that. Nothing to see here, folks.
Right. It's insane. And they're insulting to the American people. They're insulting to the intelligence of the average American when they keep saying most honest and fair election. The fact that you're saying that is concerning. The fact that they jumped out saying that, I found very concerning. It's like, oh wait, you're trying to shovel some dirt over something. You need to hide what's going on here. You're saying that pretty adamantly and pretty often that it even raises the eyebrows a little higher.
Right. And it's funny is whenever it's the party that's benefiting from it has the same talking points. And it's like immediately you had the same talking points of how fair and how free that election was, how there was no voter, no voter fraud, no registration fraud, none of that, nothing that went on. It's like zero nonsense. It's like there's at least one or two here and there. So you just say there's none is complete lie right off the bat. But the fact is there's many thousands of instances of it that we can point to. And it's like, no, nothing to see there. Don't investigate that. How many people are dead that are still on the rolls and you can't kick them off the rolls? It's like if somebody's 110 years old and they're still on the voting rolls and they're still voting, yeah, they're probably long dead and they probably shouldn't be voting. And if they are still voting, let's go talk to that person. That's a good news story. You know what I mean? Howard, at 110, are you still voting? You know what I mean? And it's suspect, obviously.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment about American citizen can vouch for 8 refugees to vote.
Right.
And in a federal election, it is illegal for anybody who is not a U.S. citizen to cast a ballot. So I don't know where that
Yeah, I think that was in Michigan, wasn't it?
However, a state can have its own laws regarding its elections within its state in a state election.
Right.
So that may be where that applies, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't apply in a federal election.
No, well, it was an investigative journalist. I forget his name. He's one of those popular. I can't think of the guy offhand, but he went in, pretended to be a foreign guy. He had somebody wearing a burqa. Went in with him. He's like, can I vouch for it? And he's like, oh yeah, you can vouch for up to 8 people, whatever. So I can go get 8 more people, and they can vouch for 8 people. Yes, that's how it works. And they explained it to them. And basically explain how they can conduct voter fraud, quote unquote, legally by vouching. So anybody could show up wearing a burqa, don't have to say a word. I vouch these are my daughters or my wife and my daughters or whoever, and they don't have to say a word. They get handed a ballot, fill it out. I mean, you could be 1 million people in a given day. I mean, what a way for some voter fraud right there, for crying out loud, because you don't have to show an ID, you don't have to show your face. I mean, how dangerous is that? No voter fraud is going to take place there. Nonsense.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who that was. I know the situation. I don't remember if it was in Michigan or where it was, but
right. And I think California just recently passed a law targeting people like that and doing investigative journalism. You can't go undercover and try to uncover fraud, especially voter fraud. It's like, really, I can't go and uncover actual fraud that's going on. Well, they benefit from the fraud. That's why they don't want that.
Of course, they don't want to be exposed. Come on, we got to make that illegal to expose crime.
Right. Why would you not want journalists doing their job and exposing things? You know what I mean? Investigative journalism used to be one of those, a thing that we loved in this country, especially whenever government's doing something wrong, whether it's left or right, we should want our governments to do the right thing, and adhere to the Constitution, adhere to the laws of the land, even if the laws are unconstitutional until they're adjudicated unconstitutional, adhere to the laws of the land, right? You swore the oath to do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Was that Dinesh D'Souza that did that?
No, not Dinesh. It's another younger guy, and I just blanking on the name off the top of my head. Anyway, whatever.
I know the name, and it's racking my brain. I don't know why I want to figure it out. It's we do know what happened.
But you think about it, let's say, you know something's going on, you want to expose it, so that way you can get it corrected. Instead, they make a law making it illegal for you to go, uncover the story and report on it. I'm like, what the heck is wrong here? How sad is this?
It's very sad. Pretty soon they'll have a law that cops can't investigate them. I mean,
Well, right.
law
You can't. Well,
enforcement is
you
no
can't
longer to investigate a sitting congressman or a sitting member of the whatever, a city council or whatever.
Well, back in the day, you think about this with Julius Caesar as an example. As long as he was a consul, he couldn't be tried for any crimes. He couldn't be accused of any crimes. So they tried to basically say, his time is up on office, and now we're going to find that he's an enemy of the state. Anybody can kill him, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why he went back into Rome with his legion. To basically keep from himself from being killed by citizens, if you will. He take his rightful place. But anyway, that's one of those things is they're going to say if you're in elective office, you can't be investigated for fraud or crimes or anything like that or held to account. It will get to that point, and then and we're close to it if we're not careful.
Yeah, that'd be a high level of corruption.
Right. And now you think about it as the power of the president to be able to pardon whoever, whenever, to include Joe Biden. It was an auto pen that pardoned so many people. Did the president have any knowledge of it? Does the president have to have any knowledge of it? Who can tell at this point? I mean, he's not going to be able to actually ever testify to that, right? I mean, his brain's gone. He's got cancer. So those people who were pardoned
Even
by
if he
auto
could,
pens,
he wouldn't. I mean, he's not going to.
of course
admit
not.
it.
He would never admit to not pardoning somebody. So now you got a situation where what can you commit any crime that you want while you're in office, and the president just quickly pardons you, and you're good to go, no problem.
Well, the preemptive pardons, that's what gets me. It's you have been
Right.
charged for a crime, you have a preemptively in the event you are, here you go. It's like, wait a minute. That almost sounds like an admission of guilt here. Or what's going on? The guy hasn't even been charged. He hasn't
Right.
been prosecuted, and you're already pardoning him.
Right. But with the pardon, it comes with essentially, by law, by statute, it comes with an admission of guilt. You essentially, I don't know if you have to allocute or anything like that, but essentially you admitting to the fact that you've done something wrong, and now by the accepting of the pardon, I did that wrong, but I'm getting excused for it. Essentially, that's what it amounts to. But now you got people saying, "Well, I never did anything wrong. Why did you accept the pardon?" Well, just in case. Well, if you did nothing wrong, you don't need the pardon. And this isn't a situation of being out in public
Well,
and with being
lawfare is a thing these
For
days.
sure.
So I don't know anymore. Maybe you take the pardon for a bit of security because of the lawfare that goes on. But I mean, I know we've seen the left go after the Trump's administrative staff in his first administration. I mean,
That
they
is
went
true.
after everybody. And these guys couldn't defend themselves. Guys were just pleading guilty because they just couldn't defend themselves. They didn't have the financial means, whatever. They were facing 30, 40, 50 years. They're going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. They're like, well, for 15 years, I guess I'll just plead guilty. I think it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I
I
can
don't think
understand-
anybody
I
should
can
ever
understand.
plead guilty if they're not guilty. But
No,
the
I
way
get
the,
you.
the
I
way
get
the
you
legal
there.
systems are set up now, I mean, there was a time when laws were supposed to be written in such a way the average person could understand just by reading them. You should be able to comprehend them, understand the law. But it's so complicating now. Words are used now, and the whole thing about in accordance to section 3, part A, B, whatever. I mean, you're just chasing around, man, down rabbit holes trying to figure out what
Right.
these parts were so you can put the pieces together to understand what the stinking law meant. It's like,
For
how am I
sure.
supposed to live in a society where I'm not advantaged to understand the laws? Not everything I do should require a legal team.
No, it shouldn't. And you got to think about it. Yeah, on almost any daily basis, you're probably breaking one law or another. And if they wanted to get you on even technicalities of breaking the law, they could get you on something. So I can understand maybe accepting a pardon, just to get that off your back. I could maybe understand it, but at the same time, I think you should have to allocute if you're going to accept the pardon. Hey, what did you do wrong? What did you know you did wrong? Come out and say that. If you're like, well, I did nothing wrong, don't accept it. You shouldn't be able to receive it if you're going to say you did nothing wrong. But I understand what you're saying as well, as far as them going to go after him for anything under the sun.
So
I get
yeah, I don't know. You make a valid point. I mean, somebody's recognizing you were guilty of something,
Right, of
So
something,
I
yeah.
mean, that's what Joe Biden was doing, or whoever was operating the auto pen was obviously saying, "Well, we think they could be prosecuted for this, or that." Somewhere in the back of their mind, something they saw that they would be could be prosecuted for, and turn around and say, "Well, we'll just give them a preemptive pardon. It'll blanket cover everything up to this point in time." At the time when the president leaves office or whenever, or when they receive the pardon or whatever it is, they can't be prosecuted for any crime. It's ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. For sure. Like you're covering a set period of time. It's like you could do pretty much anything during that point, covering anything that you did may or may not have done wrong during a set period of time, which I'm imagining if you murdered somebody, you're good to go, right? Because you can be pardoned for murder too, by the way.
Holy crap.
So think about it.
I can see Hunter, Daddy, can I get an extra 10 days on that?
Yeah, anything you may or may not have done. It's like, well, hold on a second here. I got a couple people I want to visit, if you will, and settle some scores.
No,
I mean,
man.
it is one of those things because you can be pardoned for murder.
You can legalize crime that way.
Yeah, you could in a lot of ways for sure. Now, I agree. If somebody did something wrong, and let's say they were over prosecuted and over sentenced, I could see commuting their sentence. You know what I mean, lessening it. Saying okay, they should have gotten 5 years, and instead they got 10 years. I'm going to cut 5 years off, commute 5 years of that sentence, and if you've already served that minimum time, then you're free to go. You know what I'm saying? I could see something like that. But if you're truly guilty of something where you knowingly did it, you willfully did it, and there was no good reason for you to do it outside of benefiting yourself or a few cronies, I'm sorry, you got to do the time on that.
Generally speaking, people in an executive position don't just frivolously give pardons away, except for Joe Biden. They're pretty responsible about it. But you're right. Commuting sentences indicates that, well, I see the crime, I see what he did, but I think the sentencing was too harsh, so I'm going to give him the commute. Or pardoning him of the crime. I think it was lawfare. I think he was railroaded. I'm going to give him the pardon. Stuff like that, and it is evaluated through the pardon office. It's not like the president's just frivolously over there with a pen, unless it's Joe Biden. He's not frivolously over there with the pen, just writing off pardons all day long.
Yeah, and there's been many people who've been sentenced to, for crimes that they certainly didn't commit. And you go back in the country, people were convicted of crimes just because of their race. That happened a lot of times, or over sentenced because maybe they were not that intelligent. They had learning disabilities. Maybe they were mentally incapable. But they just threw a lot of crimes on them, and just to clear the books, if you will, because of a backlog, and people just accepted it and or agreed to it, and they didn't understand what they were agreeing to. I agree with pardon people like that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, railroaded. Although I gotta say, in all fairness, Trump did more or less blanket pardon J6ers. I don't think they were overly evaluated. He did. And some of those people committed crimes after they've been pardoned and exposed themselves to the true criminals they really are. So there is that. However, I will at least give them the benefit of most of those guys were railroaded. What happened at J6 was criminal within itself by the United States government. It doesn't take a genius to put two and two together on that.
Yeah. But there was a few people that I know for a fact that should have been not pardoned, but they were, sadly, that they were only there because you got to think about this. I know one person. Actually, I went to high school with the guy. He was younger than me, but he's basically a lifelong criminal, going back to his time in middle school. This guy's been a criminal. I can say that because he's been in and out of jail, in and out of prison for years upon years. Just a horrible guy. He went up there, heck, the guy was blowing up my Facebook and I had to block him finally. Just nuts. And all of a sudden we find out on January 6th, he actually beat up a cop who'd either he tackled the cop or the cop fell. And he goes over to the police officer saying, "Let me help you up. I'll help you up." And immediately jumps on top of him and starts punching him. And he's like, "Hey guys, I got one over here. Help me out," to beat up this cop. That guy should not have been pardoned. That guy was just a lifelong criminal. He should have been left to rot, in my opinion.
Exactly. There were people like that. We did see people throwing bottles and stuff at law enforcement. They were standing on balconies. We also saw cases that weren't allowed. See, this is the thing. Like, say the case with we interviewed his attorney, Jake Angeli, and I don't know if you remember. I can't think of his attorney's name out of Missouri, but at any rate, he holy crap, my mind just went blank for a second here.
It's all right. It happens.
What was I going to say? Oh, no. During the course of his trial and stuff, they wouldn't let him admit evidence, such as video recordings and things like that happened during the event. And if you have a right to a defense, why can't you bring in evidence such as video recordings and things like that. Why was that not admissible? So there was a lot of questionable things in the courts that way. And later on, it came out with some of the video evidence. A lot of people that were there in J6 were protecting the cops. They were aiding the cops. They were helping the cops. They saved the cops at times when they were in bad situations.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. They should be able to bring that in for sure. And also at the same time, the fact that all of this, I think, was an inside job to be able to open up the doors to allow people just to easily access certain points of entry. That to me, there had to be some sort of inside job, whether every Capitol Hill police officer was in on it, which I don't think that's the case. I think there was key people who knew, who was able to give stand down orders in certain areas. The fact that the bike rack wasn't linked together, it was still loose, which allowed people to easily easily flow through there. Which, now mind you, wouldn't have stopped everybody, but it would have slowed everybody. It would have pushed everybody to one certain area or another. The fact that wasn't linked, the fact they didn't have the big fence up around there that they could have closed off at that point, was another red flag for me. And of course, you see all these doors that people just abandon that are normally manned with people, screening points, if you will, magnetometers, etc. Just open right up and allowed people in.
That rightfully should have been locked.
Rightfully,
and it's funny because here's doors open up on this side, and everybody's walking in through these doors, and they're busting windows on that side.
Right.
It's like, what the heck? The door's right there, bro. Why are you busting windows over here?
And there's some video that we've seen that's not out there now, I guess, that that saw Capitol Hill police officers holding doors for people walking in.
And
it's like, what's going on there?
Well, they had that one officer where the bike racks you're talking about, the bike racks you should not pass by because they obvious barriers from going in. I mean, they were spaced apart, like you said. Who accepts a bike rack? Who thinks a bike rack? You might think it's an odd place to put a bike rack, but when you see a bike rack, you don't think, oh, gee, that's a police barrier, I shouldn't cross it. It's a bike rack. You identified it for what it is. You didn't see it as a police barrier. And then you got an officer over there waving his hands like, come on in, come on, bring it on. He's, as I hit the microphone here, but yeah, he's waving his hands and stuff like, come on, bring it,
Yeah, and I've dealt with many situations where we set up bike rack to contain people, to push crowds a certain way, to be able to be a reference point to say, hey, a visible barrier, don't go past this point. I know it's not going to stop most people from being able to hop over it, but if they hop over it, I can easily identify you. You're not supposed to be in this area. Now I can engage you.
Did you put up a sign or police tape or something to indicate this is a barrier?
Well, whenever it's
like when I go to political events and they got what might be a flimsy barrier, right? Like say Trump.
Yeah.
Okay, I go to Manchester, New Hampshire. It's Trump's headquarters here in New Hampshire, so I'm up there, and they're like, so we got a special guest coming to visit. Everybody should wait and see. They didn't want to tell us it was the president, and they made a makeshift barrier between the people and the president. It was a makeshift barrier, but you knew it was a barrier the way they did it. They set it up. They made sure that you understood this is a barrier. You're not meant to cross the barrier. If you try to cross the barrier, it's gonna be problematic for you. So you knew there was no doubting what it was meant for.
Right. Oh yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Set up many bike rack, many security barriers, if you will. Even the double bike rack, which creates a dead space in between. Usually that's around a staging area where you have him centrally located giving a speech. So that way, if anybody jumps one bike rack, you got an area there, quote, air gap, if you will, that you can engage that person or secure them before they can get across the other barrier. But anyway, done that many times. You're not supposed to go past it. Stand at the bike rack. You're good to go. No problem. Once you start hopping over, you have the issue.
Yeah, but they made it blatantly obvious. It was meant to be a barrier. It wasn't like they were spaced apart like 20 feet or 30 feet or something,
right?
Or 15 feet, whatever it was. I don't know. But I say people kicking bike racks as walking by, tripping over them. That's how much space was in between them. You know what I mean? It was like, there's nothing there that was indicating that was meant to be a barrier to prevent you from passing through. And if you wanted to do that, why don't you barricade the doors? That would be more an indication, right?
Right, absolutely. Another problem was the fact that people who just happened to have a cell phone on at the time and was on Capitol Hill, but nowhere near, bypassing any barriers, that pinged off of a cell tower. They got visited by FBI. I know an older couple lives in a neighboring county. Was telling me about, hey, we had the FBI come here and we were scared. They were threatening us with this and this, and they're like, we're at that point, they were in their 70s, mid and late 70s. And like, we didn't go into the Capitol. We didn't break down any bike rack. It's like our cell phone. And they're like, well, our cell phones happen to ping nearby. And it's like, so what? Who cares what our cell phone pinged by? Our hotel was nearby. We didn't do anything wrong, and was grilling them for about an hour at their house, and finally just cleared them of any wrongdoing, because they're like, one of the agents was like, yeah, these aren't people who we're looking for. This is stupid, and basically closed the case on them because
Yeah.
he used some common sense, saying this is stupid. Why are we here?
But then you have that case with the Middletons out of Texas that were
Right.
praying, wasn't even in the Capitol building, wasn't on the. They were basically, if I remember correctly, they were in the mall area,
Yeah.
and they were praying, and they got jumped by cops, and they're like, we were just peacefully praying, and they kind of blew it off, because they pushed off the cops and stuff, defended themselves more or less,
Right.
and they went to their motel room like, wow, can you believe it? What the heck, and they're just trying to clean themselves up, and they didn't think anything of it after that point in time. They're like, I can't believe we got jumped by the cops. Holy crap. And next thing you know, the FBI's come along and arrested them. They were facing 20 years imprisonment because of thank God for the pardon, because they were going to jail.
Yeah, very sad. I mean, it's easy to get railroaded and stuff like that. But anyway, you guys had somebody on, I think, on your other show regarding flock cameras. Is that right?
That's that's Billy's going to have him on.
Oh, have somebody on soon.
Monday's show, I think. Billy has a
Okay.
Monday show. He used to do with Radix Verum, and I think she had to step away, so he's now doing it by himself.
Okay, gotcha.
And so yeah, Monday he's going to have him on. We may be able to get him on as a guest, maybe the 11th. I think Billy's going to try to work it out for us.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to have somebody on the show. Yeah, that guy on the show he talked about. He sent me a note the other day asking about it. And I said that's very it's very topical at the moment. I said maybe reach out to John, let him know. Maybe we'll get this guy on.
Yeah, he mentioned you to me. So originally I think he had him scheduled for the 9th. I'm like, oh, we got to book that date, bro. Can you get him another time? So he's checking into it.
Right. Well, if he comes in on the second hour, he'll be all right. I'm going to have Anthony on there in the first hour.
That might be a thing too. Back-to-back guests. I guess we could.
Yeah,
do
why
that.
not? Help fill us up there.
Well, Billy, if you're listening,
yeah, see what you can do. So we got a few minutes here, John. What do you got going on over the next week before the next show?
oh geez, working more work, bro. You know how it goes. I'm a working man. I'm not allowed to sit down and take a break. Well, my wife thinks I take too many breaks. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot going on. I'm just kind of looking around at some of these people running for office here in the state. I want to get to know some of them better that I'm not familiar with. Looking people up, things like that. Do my due diligence, more or less. If you're referring to politics, that's about all I got going on. General stuff like that, trying to work on TIB in a little bit. I'm trying to restructure some stuff there. It'd be kind of nice to get that going again. And it's kind of like a project that fell to the wayside. Things happened, and when you're a working man trying to do all these different projects, you tend to run out of time.
Right. Oh, I hear you. So
what do you got going on?
Oh, just a little bit of this and that. I'm going to be going to Louisville on Friday, American Legion National Convention there. It should be interesting. We've had some personality issues, I guess, or some issues with some of the things that the national organization has been pushing lately. So it should be a little bit heated convention this time around. But it should be interesting nonetheless. So that's what I'll be. Actually, I'll be coming back next Wednesday. So hopefully I'll be able to be on the show, at least for a portion of the time, depending on what time we leave there and get back here. I don't know.
Wait, you talking about next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, yeah.
The next
driving
show?
back. Next show.
Oh, what's going on here, bro? Well, Chris is in South Africa.
I know. Well,
Louisville.
we may have to do
these people out there don't want to listen to me just ramble on for 2 hours.
We may have to do a best of. I don't know, or maybe
we may have. Yeah, let me know. Just keep me informed, and
I will. Maybe you and Billy, and maybe a guest come on and do it. We come in if we can, the Colonel and I, and chime in a little bit here.
That's what we need. Some guest hosts. Johnny Anchors, where you at, buddy?
Right. Do a full blown 2 hour call in show. If you call in, you get on the air as long as you're not a nut.
Oh crap! That left out half the country.
Yeah, well, Democrats, socialists, and the Dems. Sorry about your luck. But anyway, one final story. This is from Newsmax. I saw this, and it's appropriate as we have a anniversary of 9/11 coming up. And it says 9/11 terror suspect gets 2028 trial date. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the accused mastermind of the September 11 terrorist attacks, and 3 alleged co-conspirators are set to stand trial in 2028 after decades of delays. A military judge ruled Wednesday. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Michael Shrama set the trial for June 5th. 2028, rejecting prosecutors' request to begin proceedings in January 2027 because of extensive pretrial litigation that remains unresolved. Mohammed Walid bin Atash, Mustafa al Hausawi, I don't care about his name, and Ammar al Baluchi are accused of roles in the 2001 attacks, which killed nearly 3,000 people. Should be interesting to see this unfold.
We're gonna waste money trying these people. Is that what you're talking?
Oh,
25 years later,
sure.
we're gonna waste money trying these people.
Yeah, for
I was
sure.
content
But,
to just let them rot, but I guess
Yeah,
they're
I-
maybe they're entitled to a trial. I don't know. There is that whole thing about suspension. Was it
Right.
suspension clause, and they're really
let-
not U.S. citizens, so I don't.
Let's hope they finally find them guilty, put them to death, and do away with
Will
their
they
bodies
do
so they
that?
can't be martyred. They could put them to death, no problem. They certainly could.
Yeah, but will they?
I don't know.
And,
We'll see.
and will justice be served if they're not tucked away into a plane and driven into a building that's slotted for, or flown into a building that's slotted for demolition? I mean, I'm just wanting justice here, Todd. I don't know.
No, I know. I get what you're saying. So, we shall see how this plays out. It's going to be a circus for sure, as especially as that trial draws near.
Yeah, no, actually, you make a good point. It'll be an interesting trial. I'm sure it's going to probably pull back a lot of scabs, and I just did a video. In fact, I posted it on my YouTube. I haven't done Facebook yet, but a 9/11 video, a song and stuff, and
Right.
some imagery, and it was kind of weird because I haven't looked at the images of the planes going into the building in a long time. And when I pulled that up and I was looking at some old video footage, man, did that take me right back? I mean, like choking up, and I'm like, oh man, it's hard to relive
Right.
that.
Right. And Holden here says killed more than that with the dust and everything like that. Yeah, for sure. All the people that got sick as a result in the aftermath. That also blood on their hands for sure with that. He's absolutely correct.
So that was called jihad, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
we
yeah.
all know that. That's jihad. I mean, suffering, stuff like that. But then there's like, radical jihad or whatever you want to call it, to commit violence against other
Right.
people, non-believers and stuff like that. There's such things called civilized jihad, right?
Yep, sure.
And
You want
that's
to hit it real
take
quick? You got
over
about
a
a minute?
civilization. Be like these people upset about Hasid, or we're upset about Mamdani. This is called
Right.
civilized jihad, when you start to infiltrate a civilization, take over their
Yep.
government structures, and eventually over a long period of time. So there, in 1982, there was a 100-year plan that was discovered in Sweden. Somebody was raided and arrested, and they found this plan. It's called the Project, and it was obviously translated into English. And the understanding is they got a 100-year plan to commit civilized jihad, to take over Western societies. And so you're seeing places like, we've talked about Germany, we've talked about England, and we're seeing what's going on there.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're
Yep.
seeing, is civilized jihad. And
Yep.
a lot of people just aren't aware of this. They think, oh, no, you're just mean conservative. You're just being mean. But no, I'm really kind of concerned for the future generations. That's what I am.
Well, they are what is called the useful idiots. Once they allow them to take over, the useful idiots who helped usher it in will be killed. They don't realize that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
no, that's and you see them aligning with the left right now because the left is so radical with the whole
Right.
socialist thing, communist thing, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter if socialism or communism. But you look back in history in Iran, what did they do? They matched up with the communists. They used them as useful idiots. And once they set up the regime,